Okay, mic check, mic check, mic check. Should be able to see the screen. I'm on IG, YT, and TT social media streams here. Mr. Blue, guide your host, TradePhantoms.com. We're going to go over about an hour, give or take, session here. Pre-market prep, starting with some futures. Take you to the open, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, and see if we have some live trades to take. Today's date, just to kick this thing off here. We got Tuesday, today being Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. Again, I'm Mr. Blue here at TradePhantoms.com. And I'll go through a couple things here, pre-market prep. Chicago, what's going on? Eric A, Greeny. Yeah, so I got multiple streams going here on multiple platforms here. So I'll try my best to keep up with everything here. All right, cool. That said, let me kick this off formally the right way. You will see at Phantoms, institutional order flow, demand and supply. This is the main strategy of Phantoms. And top-down, multiple time frame analysis. So you'll see on my personal charts here, you'll see a lot of orange, yellows, and blues. And that is has to do with the color code that I use for certain time frames. Okay, mainly the big three here, using the top-down as an approach. Monthly is going to be orange color code, yellow is going to be weekly, daily is going to be blue. Here's a checklist the Phantoms have that we kind of just cover with more due time. Candlesticks, a bunch of fancy names here, okay, but location and context being most important here. Typically, you want to be looking for these candlestick formations in the context of uptrends at demand levels, institutional demand levels. Bearish candlesticks, location and context is going to be more important than the fancy names. Typically, you're going to be looking for these kind of formations in the context of a downtrend, okay, at supply levels, so on and so forth. Then we have this thing called the liquidity map, which definitely needs some more time to explain that. But I usually just park this over here to the left as this gets referenced, I'm sure, in the live trade rooms here at Phantoms. Before I dive into the charts, I just want to take a note here or a moment here, just really briefly. Head over to forexfactory.com. Why? Today, of course, being Tuesday the 19th, we have basically nothing. Nothing in terms of a news catalyst here in the U.S. Okay, we did have the president, in the U.S. here, speak at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that was about an hour ago, right? There's some meetings, there's some things in the backdrop, as always, geopolitical. That's always going to be the case no matter what. But, just a key takeaway here, there's nothing really much as a catalyst today. Planned economic news, that is, here for the U.S. Tomorrow we do have FOMC meeting minutes, Jerome Powell. The Fed, right? Wednesday the 20th. That's tomorrow. I'll be with the Phantoms members tomorrow in the live trade room. We'll chop it up then. But today, just like yesterday, I will say yesterday was almost like was it a holiday or something, right? Markets barely didn't move at all, right? Indexes. So it's still the case at least right now. Tuesday morning, almost 9 a.m. Eastern. 30 minutes before the open, 38 minutes before the open. All right, we'll see if we can just open up with some liquidity potentially today. And that said, let's get to the charts here, right? That's what's most important. Think or swim here. Good morning, everybody in the chats. All right, so I'm going to start here with this is think or swim. Might be a little difficult to see, but I'm going to start here with the daily time frames across the board, just with the S&P on the upper left, NASDAQ upper right, Dow Jones lower left, Russell 2000 bottom right. I'm going to pop open the one of these charts, the 1 hour time frame. The daily time frame of the S&P futures. Okay, so a little bit difficult to see here. I'm just going to get straight to the point here and drop down to the smaller time frames in a moment. Okay, and it's a little bit more cleaner on the SPY, SPX chart. Right, I'm going to connect TradingView into futures, so it'll be a little bit more cleaner. So I'm going to change the process a little bit here, so it'll be better and easier to see, especially as I'm streaming multiple platforms these days. Okay, but off the back of last week, we've been kind of the market's been pretty quiet. Okay, it's just been kind of grinding itself up. Right, we're close to all-time highs. A couple days ago, we made all-time highs. I'm going to drop down the 60-minute time frame so we can just formulate what's called our G traps. Okay, looking for institutional levels of demand and supply above our Globex high and Globex low. Okay, so Nasdaq, same thing. If you kind of make this out, it's going to be very difficult to see a little bit here. I get that. Okay, we made a new all-time high several days ago. All right, I'm going to drop down into the 60-minute time frame. I'm going to be looking at this 20 period moving average 200 daily time frame. Just as a reference point as well, I made a note here. This is NASDAQ futures 23,535. That'll be more visible in a moment as I switch over in the smaller time frames, as I mentioned, right? Not much of a Dow Jones, Russell 2000 as much. Typically the Nasdaq and the S&P are going to be a lot more better typically to trade, especially during these conditions. Okay, but still looking at demand and supply is going to be the key here, even if you are trading Dow Jones and Russell 2000 being small caps there. I will just switch over here just really quickly so we just get straight to the point with the Globex straps. That'll be better visible there. Tony Davis first iron corner yesterday. Thanks, Blue. Yeah, no problem. For Tony Davis, good job. Congratulations, brother. Trade them with safety and risk management. Those iron condors credit spreads on SPX, I'm assuming. We've got a monthly chart here, weekly in the middle, daily on the right, monthly, weekly, daily. I'm going to drop down to now the smaller time frames here. Got a 60-minute time frame, upper left, 30-minute, bottom left, 5 minutes here in the middle, followed by 2 minutes on the right. Straight to the 1 hour time frame here. Okay, kind of zooming in. So I got the 1 hour, 60-minute time frame here of the S&P futures. And one of the first things that we want to do is map out our Globex high and our Globex low. Globex high, Globex low. So that's just a fancy word for overnight high, overnight low. So in Thinkorswim, there's this gray space here, if you will, and that is the overnight session. Okay, so I use these blue lines here. This is the Globex low that I'm kind of moving here. I'm going to put that right there as that is going to be the lowest low during the overnight session. That started yesterday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so if I kind of like zoom in here. Okay, there's the open yesterday evening Eastern Time, right? 6 p.m. Eastern. That's the overnight session. Okay, and there's the overnight low. That blue line there. This blue line here is going to represent the Globex high. It's going to represent overnight high, Globex high. All right, and half of our work is already done here. In that, if you look below the Globex low, the strategy is if I look below the said Globex low there and I look down and left, what I'm trying to look for is an institutional level of demand below said Globex low. Okay, so if I kind of zoom into a couple levels down here, there's a 64.35. There's a bit of an impulse level of demand. I'll drop down to the smaller time frames, even lower on this, where you can see a little bit there. Okay, that's again 6345. I'm sorry, 6,435 S&P. Want to be a little careful with that zone as it's right below the Globex low, which is fine. However, it's a very small time frame in terms of an impulse basing impulse. Okay, IBI impulse basing impulse right below there. So it's a very small time frame I would have to go to find that. So I want to be a little bit more careful with that. I did have a note here as well. The SPX SPY all-time high flip zone. I will reference that as well when I go over into the SPY chart and the which is the ETF for the futures. I'm sorry, ETF for the S&P 500 as its futures, right? So we're going to reference the SPY and the SPX as well. All right, more on that zone in a bit. Just 64.35 that is. If we do go a bit more lower, okay, this is an old note with the gamma notes. Let me just take this out. There we go. If we do go lower there, we have a 64.10. Okay, there's a drop, there's a basing, there's a rally right here. So again, I'm looking for a demand level below that Globex low. And we're still in the context of an overall, of course, up market, right? So even though the past couple of days has been kind of like slow and kind of grinding down just a little bit there, okay, we are still inside of a bullish market, okay, in the context of a higher high, higher low sequence uptrend, right? So again, we're still going to be looking for demand levels, okay, below the Globex low for what's called traps, okay, trapping people who are trying to sell short or be bearish at levels of demand in the context of an uptrend, okay? So we also have a couple of daily lows down in here too. If you can see that, make that out. It's a 63.87. There's a daily low down here, and there's another level of demand, drop base and a rally, which kind of popped out a new high here. Call it 63.80. Okay, so kind of 3 hit points here: 64.35, 64.10 handle in the S&Ps, and I got the 63.80 in the event that we kind of snap below this level. That there's a lot of time spent here. I know this is where the market really kind of popped, based and popped out a new high here. That level is kind of obvious, 6,400 that is. So I'm kind of looking to see if that did open up and we broke the upper two levels, the 64.35 and this 64.10. In the event that we did break this low here, okay, I'm looking at the 63.80 as a potential liquidity sweep, which is also going to be a G trap down here. Okay. Now, if I look up here, this is going to be a little more aggressive. The first one up here. So I'm going to make a note on that. All right. In caps there, I put that aggressive, 64.35. 64.10 would be a little bit better. And we also have another one here, 63.80, which is fine. as well. Okay, the lower one would be the best. Okay, 63.80 that is. All right. So now we're looking at Globex high here, and we also are looking for a level of supply above said Globex high. There's a little level of supply right here. I'm on a 60-minute time frame of the S&P futures. So if you kind of reference this level, this is also a daily high from a couple days ago, or what, 2 days ago, give or take. All right, so a short Friday ago. So this is about Friday's high right here. Okay, so I would reference this Friday high above today's Globex high, and we have a level of supply above that. Okay, I'll say that again because that's a lot of words there, right? Here's a Globex high. There's Friday's high right here. There's a level of supply above the Globex high and this daily high here. Okay, so this level right here could potentially be used as what's called a G-trap short. Now we have to be careful with shorting this market. You can do it, of course. You have to be very careful with it and knowing when, where, and why to do it. Okay, as this market's overall in a still bull market. But we do have a smaller time frame levels of supply above price. Oh, I'm sorry, this is supposed to be a daily high here. So we do have levels of supply above. This is Friday daily high. I'll make a note of that. Okay, we'll put that on the right there. I would suggest not to put your stop loss right above that daily high. It could be a liquidity sweep right here. Above that, 64.87, call it. Okay, and then there's a potential G trap right above here. Level of supply, 6,500, even number. Watch out. I would suggest not to put your stop loss right above this level of supply, right above that even number there as well. So I'm just going to put 6,500 here to round up. All right. Other than that, the next level above that is the all-time high, 65.08 in the S&P futures. So we're you at that point would be kissing the all-time high. So this would be a G-trap short. Okay. This is going to be aggressive as it's going to be counter trend of the overall shorting in a bull market. All right, 64.98. Put that over there. I'll do NASDAQ a bit quicker next. This is S&P futures. Looking at that level of supply. And this is the all-time high supply. Right up here. All right, now this week so far, and kind of late last week, if you will, markets have been very slow and kind of grindy, just kind of parked up here at all-time highs as it's kind of sifting out its potential next big move. Okay, so there's kind of you got mapped out levels here, right? Below price, above the Globex high, Globex low. Markets did absolutely nothing yesterday, absolutely nothing in terms of indexes. Okay, so potentially if today we get a breakup move one way or the other, okay, great, but just be careful because that could potentially get faded. Meaning that we break lower, that could be a trap to come right back up in range. Okay, and then if we kind of break a little bit more higher. Okay, great. Be careful. Make sure you have your levels mapped out. Okay, because we can just kind of fade that. Okay, and come back down in the range. Okay, so we'll see what today offers. I'm going to go over to the NASDAQ next. Gold is still just continuing, and it's just mid-range, not doing absolutely nothing in the monthlies, weeklies, and dailies, just inside. So we can save some time there. I usually like to cover gold as well, but it's just been so rangy. So, anyways, here's NASDAQ futures 1 hour time frame. I'm going to get straight to the point here, right? So we've had I guess here's a previous G trap, okay, that we had earlier, on Friday. Okay, great. Came down, we had a Globex low, broke that Globex low, had a level of, small impulse demand right there. Ended up being, kind of Friday's low area for also Friday being kind of a slow day. Pop, a little bit of a pop. Now, okay, being Monday, absolutely nothing. Now going into Tuesday, here's our new Globex low here in the NASDAQ futures. 1 hour time frame here, Globex high here. All right. Now these are all kind of old and been tested here. Doink, pop, doink, pop. Okay, doink here, hitting, pop. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of erase this just so I'll keep the boxes there for reference. Okay, but we're going to update here now, right? So here's the new Globex low, as mentioned over here to the hard right edge. Okay, pretty tight, right? Globex high, Globex low, pretty tight. Off the back of yesterday. Again, even NASDAQ didn't do much yesterday as well. Okay. we're looking for a level of institutional demand below the Globex low. So here's the current price. Here's the Globex low. If I look down and left, we have this level right here. Now, a lot of time spent here. So similarly to the S&Ps, where we have this drop, we have this massive basing and a rally. This did pop out a new high here. Okay, so I could definitely reference this point. This is going to be at or around the 23,630 handle, 23,630 handle 1 hour time frame. If you look down and left, you can see very basic demand zone right there. Pretty obvious for my liking there. So therefore, what I'm looking for is there's a daily low. Okay, there's a daily low there, of course, and that's going to be 23,587. Okay, what I'm looking for is a potential G-trap long bullish below that daily low, below this Globex low, in the event that we do pick up some higher momentum potentially or some bigger volatility. Okay, I'm looking for that sweep, okay, that liquidity sweep below that daily low of 23,587, and therefore the price point that I'm looking to potentially put an entry on, okay, would be about the 23,000. You might want to write this down, okay, or prep your charts. 23,535 Nasdaq futures, okay, 23,535 for the what's called G-trap long. And I have a note here too as well, liquidity sweep. All right, so super precise there. There's also another daily low. Whoops. Remove this note. There's also another daily low. I'm not done here yet with this. Here's why. There's also a daily low at 23,500 right here, and there's a shelf here. Okay, I don't have enough time to explain that right now, as we have 25 minutes before the market opens, and I want to keep it moving here. But my Phantoms members will know what I'm talking about here. There's a bit of a shelf here. There could also be a liquidity sweep right below this secondary daily level here. So I'm going to start to scale in at 23,545 with an emphasis at 23,500, and then right below 23,500, there could also be a nice liquidity sweep entry below here as well, below that daily low, and that even number of 23,500. How many times can I say 23,500? I'll say it so many times that hopefully you won't forget that during today and or even tomorrow's trading session, if you will. All right, we'll see. So G trap, Globex trap long. It's a trap trade. We discussed this more in detail. Trade Phantoms. All right, that's a good one there. Call it 23,480. 480. See if I can poke that one out here to stand out a bit, as I kind of want to put a bit emphasis on that one there. Not this one. Okay, this one here. Yeah, you know it, Eric. Hey. Yeah, Ranger. I'm sorry, Striker, brother. What's going on? Yeah, don't get me wrong. You could still, if you know what you're doing, you're trained, right? So, yeah, so you could short-term scalp that futures market, that is, for gold. But overall, in the condition for traders that might not be as trained, or just want to be a little more careful there, especially on social media, etc. All right, cool. Let's move on here. Well, if you want to learn a bit more about this, well, I'll take a sip of coffee here, TradePhantoms.com. I know we're on TikTok now, too. So everything that I'm saying here is covered there. TradePhantoms.com. Make sure you get to the right website. There's a couple of things out there, apparently. All right, let's move on here. That was NASDAQ, right? Globex high. We have a couple levels of supply here. What I would suggest, map out your daily highs above price in NASDAQ, okay? There's a couple daily highs here, etc. Now, these are all levels of supply, right? However, we are still in the context of an overall uptrend, right? So these are all going to be very key hit points here with some liquidity sweeping above here. So like if long, for example, you want to TP some, take profit, okay? And if you're looking to take a Globex trap short, a liquidity sweep short, okay, you can potentially look at some daily high levels of supply above. If I wanted to draw the parallels to the S&P level that I mapped out for a G-trap and and marry that to the parallel to the NASDAQ, you're talking 23,925. So that would be this level right here. So I'll stick that one out, put that red, okay, and this could be a G-trap short, which would be bearish, Okay, and also is going to be what's called a trap and a liquidity sweep. Okay, above these two daily highs and the Globex high. All right, so 23,925. All right, and there's a ton of stuff up here, so just be careful. A little bit of chop potentially in the event that we even break to the upside. Some stuff here that the markets would have to absorb. All right, so I'm just kind of sticking out 23,925 from the others. All right, but that's not the only one. All right, but just be careful. Still trying to shorten this market. I know we're kind of high, but we're still continuing to grind higher. All right, let's move on. I'm going to go to VIX. VIX. There's trading view. So we got a sub VIX, what, 15, 14, sub VIX, 15, 14 VIX. What does that mean? That's pretty low for the most part, relatively low. VIX low or VIX going down, market up, VIX up, market down. Inverse correlation. A lot more to that than just that. Okay, well, we talk about that more in detail with more time due. All right, so I want to look at that on the higher time frames, also mapping out the kind of overnight or the smaller time frames as well. Where's the overnight low? Well, look, mapping that out, that's where that is right there, represented by that white line there. This is the overnight high. Well, what am I going to do with this information? If the VIX, if the VIX remains down or goes down below the overnight low and sustains there and trending lower, that could be more bullish for the market. If VIX breaks the overnight high, sustains above the overnight high, and kind of trends higher, that could be a bit more bearish. I'm sorry, bearish for the market. So VIX up, market down, VIX down, market up, opposite. So just think of prices moving in the opposite direction. So super important there. Implied volatility on the VIX. There's going to be SPYs on the daily time frame. Zooming in so y'all can see a bit better. All right, I'm just going to get straight to the point here. We got less than 30 minutes before the market opens here, right? So you should be referencing the weeklies, but I'm just going to actually, I'll put the weeklies and dailies here side by side. I'll do that. So I'll put the weeklies on the left. I got the daily on the right. Okay, so what I'm looking for is how did last week close, right? How did last week close? Okay. All right. How did last week close? Bullish bar. Off of a breakout week last week, new all-time highs last week, right? Here we are today. Here's a daily time frame here in the middle here, right? So yesterday was just kind of nowhere, right? We just didn't really move anywhere. Couple of pennies off the all-time highs here, right? So this is all-time high in SPY, the ETF for the S&P 500. Daily high here, daily low there. So and last week's high here, last week's low here, mapping that out. And so we'll see if we do hypothetically break yesterday's low being right there. Okay, we do have this level that I want to have y'all put on your radar. I would suggest the SPY 640 SPY. So in the event that we even did hypothetically break yesterday's low and we kind of dropped down a bit more lower, I'm looking at this SPY 640 price point. There is a level of demand there. I see orange. That was once the previous July high and what was once an all-time high, because we did have a pullback off of that, about 3% off that all-time high. So now this created what's called a flip zone. Okay, a flip zone. So remember I was mentioning I was going to go over into the SPY as it's a bit more cleaner. Okay, so one of the levels that I'm really looking for is that 640 handle in the SPY, and that level was developed, if I kind of scroll down here, was developed last Tuesday, which was August 12th. If you can see the bottom here, August 12th, we have an impulse, basing impulse. We really popped out into a new high. Okay, so this level is going to be extremely important kind of come today into tomorrow, potentially, or this week, give or take, in the event that we come down lower here, okay, because there's going to be a level of demand, what's called a flip zone as well, right there at that 640 handle on the SPY. Okay, now that level was developed, as mentioned, Tuesday, August 12th, about 11 a.m. Eastern, about 10:30, 11 a.m. Eastern. So what we want to do is go over here back to the futures, and I can draw the parallels to that level. Okay, so I went back to the futures. Where are we on Tuesday? At about 10:30, 11 o'clock. Okay, there it is right there. Okay, that is this level, impulse, basing impulse in the S&P futures. So that's that 64.35, 64.30 handle there. Okay, so all I did was just take the S&P futures, and I took the SPY, which is the ETF, the S&P 500. Okay, and I just married those levels, or connected the dots, if you will, together. Okay. All right, so that equals that if you like put that across the board here. Okay, impulse, basic impulse. So that 640 handle today, 639 handle on the SPY is going to be pretty critical, as the 6430 handle in the S&P futures. S&P futures on the right, SPY on the left. Okay, there goes that breakdown on the 5 minute, or I'm sorry, the impulse, the breakdown of the small time frame here, impulse, basic impulse. Okay, super important there. Now, in addition to that, let me go back over here to the SPY. And zoom in. Here's why. Right now, the S&P is basically flat, right? We closed there, slight gap down, no big deal here, right? That pre-market quote right there in orange, down 0.07%. That's like nothing essentially, right? A little slight gap down though, I will say. Okay. Now I'm going to take that to the SPX. Stick with me here. Watch this. This is a little advanced here, but this is Phantom. This is all, real life professional trading here. Okay. But the point that I'm trying to say here is the implied SPX open, give or take. I just went over to the SPX, which is the cash index of the S&P 500. And implied open, give or take 6445, right? Give or take. That might change a bit here or there. Okay, 6445, 6440, plus or minus 5 to 7 points. Okay, because things may change maybe 10 minutes from now, just in terms of a couple of points. Now that said, what am I doing with that information? Well, I went over to what's called this options depth here, right? And this is going to let us know about what the market maker exposure is based on what's called gamma. Market maker gamma. So this is kind of advanced here, okay? But the key takeaway from my Phantoms that know, okay, is what do you see here, folks? A lot of blue here. A lot of blue. And it ain't me, right? I know I'm Mr. Blue here at TradePhantoms.com, okay? But this is not me. It's a lot of blue here. So what does that mean? Okay, this is also going to let us know that a lot of positive gamma out there. So when market makers have a lot of positive gamma, okay, that means that they're going to be kind of providing a lot of liquidity for the market, and therefore it's probably not going to be moving as much as what you would think. Okay, because typically markets move when you have a lack of liquidity. I don't want to get too much in the rabbit holes there. Okay, but market makers are going to be going on the opposite side of the current direction of what the prices are going to be going. Okay, so therefore they're going to be providing liquidity, and they're going to be basically suppressing price. Okay, so today might things could change. Okay, but just based on the options depth right now, pre-market open 17 minutes in, 13 minutes before open. Okay, this is letting me know that, just like yesterday, very similar. Okay, it could be a little more of a choppy session here. Okay, could change as weather changes. This is kind of like the weather, right? To keep it short and sweet, to give you all an analogy, this is kind of like the Doppler radar. Say, okay, there's a percent that, there's a chance that we might break out, but very, very low percent. Of course, there's a little bit of a chance. But, this is letting me know that there's probably not going to be a chance that we can actually break out. But things can change off the open. A lot of blues here, okay, around here. Now, key takeaway here, we got, if I kind of just zoom in, a lot of the prices kind of, in terms of the big open interest order blocks here, along with options depth, net market maker gamma exposure here, is basically at the 6450s, okay, in the 64, only basically a couple of about 20 points above and 20 points below. We have, there's levels kind of everywhere here, right? So when the market opens, I'll maybe give you a little bit more of a better synopsis on this, as this kind of might change a little bit here. But just off the open, I'm going to be extremely patient with the indexes, if you will. And that said, I'm going to go over into some other individual tickers to see if there's any better opportunity, at least off the open, while this market kind of potentially sifts out. Are we going to hit breakout today, or is it just going to be a range inside of yesterday's high and low? Okay. So SPYs, we already kind of mapped out a level on said SPYs. The equivalency in the SPX, because one of the things that I just wanted to do here before I move on, just really briefly, remember that level in the SPY 640 that I had mentioned, which was August 12th, Tuesday, that is, down here. What that price is in the SPX is about 64.10. Okay, so SPX 64.10 is going to be a key level that is going to have a lot of confluence potentially today with the SPY 640 price. I'll make this bigger so y'all can read the notes, especially on TikTok because I'm streaming on the phone, which is not ideal, but it's my second stream ever, so I'm not qualified for TikTok Studio yet. It will get better. Confluence with the SPY 640 price and futures, ES futures, that is, right? What was it? Roughly the 64.30 price in futures. Okay. That's that same level there, right? So that's SPX 64, call it 14s, 64 10s, I'll round down. Into that level there. Okay. Now what I want to also do just really briefly before we move on, 64 10s, 64 15s, if you will. If I go to options depth, what I want to do is qualify to say, okay, great. I have the S&P futures Globex trap there. I have a SPY demand level there, flip zone there, institutional level flip zone demand there. Okay. Do we have positive gamma at 64.10, 64.15 price point? So if I zoom in specifically at the 64.10, 64.15s, give or take. And if I'm looking in there, there's not that much there. Okay, in terms of what there's positive gamma above that. This is what I'm saying. We'd have to get through this stuff in the 64.50s, 64.30s before we get down there. Okay, but there is something there, 64.15. Anything that is down there, okay, the biggest leg, one of the bigger ones below the 64.20 in terms of an options open interest order block there for market makers. Okay, is literally at the 64.15. You might not be able to see that number small on the TikTok stream. Okay, but that's 64.15 right there, and that is a bot. That is a bot gamma node. Okay, that's a bot gamma node. All right, is it huge? No, not huge. All right, but there is some kind of, I would say, small relative to the others, but there is some kind of gamma node there. Positive, that is. All right, and that's going to provide demand support potentially for today's session, along with everything else that we just mentioned prior to this, before we move on. Okay, so we got some stuff there. Okay, multiple things lining up. All right, and that's important. Yeah, Mark Wahlberg, but potentially, for sure, an IC. I am going to be extremely patient with convexity on SPX. I was trying a couple shots yesterday on SPX. It just was nothing moved. Wasn't moving. All right, so we'll see today if we kind of break out or not. QQQs, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. All right, we got Qs, again, weekly on the left, just so y'all can take a peek at that. Okay, and then I got dailies here in the middle. I'm just going to look at the pre-market quote and what's above and what's below, right? So daily time frame, if I stop moving this, slight gap down right now as we speak. So close there, slight gap down here. Nothing too crazy in terms of the gap, still inside gap. Couple of levels, okay, the July all-time high right here. Okay, that was once the all-time high before that 3% correction that we had early August. Okay, that is a retest over here. That's 574. We also have this daily low down here on the QQQs. QQQ is the ETF of the Nasdaq here. Okay, we have the 572.50. Okay, we also have last week's low down in here too, 571. Okay, so again, if we drop lower in the event that we do pick up some steam here and potentially drop lower, well, what is lower? Look down on the left. We have a couple daily lows here and last week's low here as well. So watch out for those last week low and high, what's called liquidity sweeps. Okay, so what I would recommend is to go back to I'm going to move on here because we have 7 minutes before the open. I want to get through more tickers, etc. Again, if you want a little bit more, learn more about the process of what we go through, hit up that TradePhantoms.com website. Okay, and then this is where you get trained, okay, to do this consistently. All right, everybody in here who's already a Phantoms member started there. Okay, but getting back to the charts here, what I would recommend, okay, is marry the Globex trap futures, right? The same thing that we did in S&P futures, go over to the Nasdaq futures, and then marry the levels or draw the parallels to the QQQs. So you want to look at what the QQQ levels were at the particular time, and then draw the parallels to the NASDAQ futures, similarly to what I did the S&P. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at these daily lows, weekly low sweeps down over here for some G traps as well. All right, and QQQs in the event that we do potentially break down into a new level or a new low down here just on the dailies. Okay, so in the event that NASDAQ just kind of comes down and makes a new low down in here, okay, well, we have to reference that and put that on the dock here for a potential bullish trade, okay, at lows and at demand, sweeping daily and weekly lows in the context of an overall uptrend. Okay, that happens today with no catalyst here being today. High probability that if that does swipe lower, that we'll finish inside a probable range back up. Okay, so prepare that area down in here. QQQs. All right, and again, you have some daily highs up here, so just reference that as well. Dollar Forex has been a little bit more rangy. Dollar is trying to, I don't want to talk about that at the moment right now. I'm just looking at the time here. Apple, we'll go through the Mag 7. Okay, just because the options on these are going to be super liquid. I know there's a couple other tickers that might even have better openings and formations. The team in the chat here, they do a great job at helping and assisting folks. So they'll put some of those tickers in the chat because they're trained and they know how to qualify certain tickers. All right, but mainly I'll stick with the Mag 7 just because I know the options are super liquid, so you're not going to get slipped on options pricing, etc. Right? Apple here weekly finally broke out, had some decent news. Finally, as breaking out of this monthly range for quite some time, multiple weeks break inside. Finally broke. We into the upside. We have a couple levels up here, right? It's not in the all-time high club along with others, right? We have a kind of weekly high here. We have a March high here. Okay, so just be patient with this thing. Make sure you're just mapping out your levels of supply above and your monthlies and weekly levels for today. All right, coming off the back of last week, 2 weeks, right, or the past 2 weeks breakout. However, past couple of days, it's just been kind of calmed down a little bit here, right? So we have yesterday's high, yesterday's low was here, but that wasn't even the mother bar. The prior day before that, being on Friday, that was what's called a mother bar, as that was Friday's high and Friday's low. And then yesterday, along with a lot of other tickers, just remained inside of Friday's trading range. Now, that said, remember what we're talking about here. In the event now that market's still in a bull market, and in the event that Apple kind of breaks down below, say yesterday, the mother bar low on Friday, well, do I have a level of demand below that? We do. We have a daily low right below here as well, 227. Okay, 227. So in the event that Apple comes down into this area, can use that as demand, daily low there. All right, want to go to a smaller time frame here. Right below that yesterday's low or daily low, we do have a level of demand. Okay, and I see some orange here. Remember that level of supply right here that Apple finally had to break. A couple levels here to go up. Well, we got two flip zones over here, right? So I'm going to be looking at the 227 here, and then last week's low, of course, get the 225, 224. Watch out for that potential last week's low liquidity sweep down in here. All right, Amazon. Looking on the left. After earnings, big gap down, decent recovery here. Yesterday's high, yesterday's low. Again, one of the stronger stocks within the sector, not in the all-time high club here. Potentially attempting to join that. We still have a couple points away from that, about 12 points, give or take, 12 to 15 points, give or take, away from that. In regard to today, yesterday's high, yesterday's low. Slight gap down here today. Still, of course, strong. Amazon's still very strong. We'll see, what happens here, but watch out for, again, yesterday's low sweep, as mentioned. So if we drop lower on indexes, we have a couple levels. So that's going to be the theme here, potentially going into today's session. Yesterday, we already had kind of a sweep where a lot of tickers actually did break below a daily low and picked up some bids and put in their low. AVGO being one of them, which we were already kind of prepared. I don't know if anybody took this in regard to the Phantoms members. Okay, but we had a bunch of daily lows here, which ended up being a weekly low. And then yesterday, we came down into this level 299, which we were talking about in the Phantoms group on AV ticker AVGO here, right? So again, weekly low here, daily low, swept right below that yesterday. Okay, and then I'll pick right back up in the mid range. Okay, so that I don't know if that's going to happen again. Okay, but obviously I have referenced this now. This is going to be yesterday's low. In the event that we do come a bit more lower down here on AVGO, which is still one of the strongest stocks on the planet. Okay, again, we have levels of demand below current price as well. There's last week's low. There's an unfilled gap here too on AVGO, along with that monthly VWAP down there in orange. You can see why I color code certain things now, so I know what levels I'm looking at. And again, for you folks that are kind of new on TikTok there, okay, orange, yellow, blue, monthly, weekly, daily. Just trying to get some folks more acclimated here as you hang out with yours truly, Mr. Blue. Okay, or not hang out. That's okay too. Okay, bunch of levels down in here, super key. So if AVGO happens to swipe lower down here, I'm not sure we're going to get down there today. These are going to be great. These are going to be great levels of demand for some liquidity sweeps, as I got a bunch of monthlies and weekly levels down in here. Okay. Market just opened. Never enough time here. Try to go through as much as possible. I'm going to switch over to the daily time frame here on the left. Switch this down to a 2-minute time frame here on the right. Be patient on open. While that is being said, let me just take a quick peek at the internals. Get the VIX here. VIX. Just open, so we'll see how that unravels. Advanced declines. How many stocks are up versus down the New York Stock Exchange? We're at a positive 561. Extremes would be positive or negative 2,000. So not really extreme there, but positive. VIX on VIX a bit more lower. So if that continues lower, that could be, again, just market could just be kind of cool, calm, bullish, just not really moving. Nothing to be fearful about. Vol D, volume up versus down. New York Stock Exchange slightly up, not extreme. Positive or negative 3 to 1s or 3s. Positive negative 3 would be extreme, not extreme at all on the upside. First tick in, and cumulative tick too early right now for ticks as we just opened. So we'll go over to Thinkorswim just really quickly, make sure everything's refreshed. Tesla hood. We've got Tesla inside bar from Friday. Tesla's trying to squeeze out a bit. NVIDIA, Meta not having a good open. AMD coming into the 20 EMA on the daily, close to some weekly lows. Tesla's bucking the trend a little bit here. Off open. I want to be a little patient with that as spies. Based off yesterday's condition going into today's condition, folks, be a bit careful. Meta is generally more weaker, but I gotta be careful with this Meta here on the daily coming to the 20. Meta's a bit more weaker off the open, but that's still a hard short. But it did have a pro cap down the weeklies. Meta could be a quick scalp short. I'd be very careful with that. All right, good. Nice little open here in terms of volatility. Actually, let's see how this changed, if any. A bit of a positive, into a bit of a positive gamma node here. So we're going to put these swipes lower into perspective. A key level at SPY at 640. Want to be careful. We're at yesterday's low right now. Meta gave a wide range bar here. This Meta is one of the weaker ones, folks. If I'm not mistaken. Video. So if you want to get short Meta, that is a short-term scalp. We have a little room there to go on the to the weekly level. So I want to be really cautious with this Meta long put. Some may even not even take this. All right. But 72, 752s or the 750s, not bad here. If I pick up the 750s, 750 strike put, this is Meta. Copy this code. Bring that over here. I would suggest to do smaller position sizing on this. This is a long put 750 strike on Meta, just for a day trade here today. This could pull back a little bit on us here. All right, right now it's going for about 490, well now $5, give or take on this. So I just got long put on this Meta. Get this in my other account here. This. All right, long put Meta, which is bearish. This is the premium chart of the puts. Be careful with this trade. I'm not even big size here. Remember sells so at or around here. Got sold short here. All right, bearish bought put, which is bearish. This is Meta. Counter higher time frame trend. Be careful. All right, target is if we could just even get it equal to or new low down in here. Put that red. Even though I bought a put, that's bearish. On price to potentially off this 5 range bar here, trickle down. This is going to be some TPs in the event that we get it. Okay, manages super aggressive. All right. Yeah, somebody said the SPY tanked off the open. You know, be careful mentioning that. I mean, well, not careful mentioning that, but you know, you got to put that into perspective. You know, tanking, it's flat. Everything's flat. I mean, the SPY's a flat, right? So if you're looking at like a 1-2 minute bar here, yeah, it looked like it's going to get destroyed, but all we did is come into yesterday's low, and you know, at least right, it's super early, right? For the record, right? Super early. So you just got to be careful with that. You know, VIX not really spiking too much here. All right. So we got to put that into perspective. I remember what I was mentioning all in the morning here in the morning prep, range. So today is definitely, you always want to be patient, right, and let things unravel. But off the back of yesterday, definitely want to be super patient. Unless we get like a volatility injection here. A little bit of a positive gamer right there. Yesterday's low. All right, back on VWAP on daily. I just want to see, just be patient. Right off the open SPY, SPX above there, above the VWAP. Just putting this into perspective. You see Apple. Just pulling VWAPs. Amazon. Fang's a little heavy. The Mag 7. As I'm letting this market kind of sift out the open here, just pulling some VWAPs, some daily VWAPs here. As you can see, no follow through off that. That's what I wanted to be patient with y'all folks in here, right? NVIDIA got a little sneaky G trap here. Not G trap, but a liquidity sweep. NVIDIA 17870 might be a decent little sneak. This is actually following through better than Meta, which is still NVIDIA is a hard short, right? But similarly to Meta, as we're in higher time frame uptrends. So this NVDA 179.80 could be a bit of a nice little sneaky long here. And you can see SPYs, just yesterday's low swipe. And right back up in the mid-range. All right, the mags, a little heavy, equal weighted, SPX equal weight. I can just tell the volume's slightly low today, similarly to yesterday. So SPX equal weight here is up, while the Mag 7 index slightly down. So the Mag 7, right? Apple, Amazon, AVGO, Broadcom, right? Google, Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, Tessie. They're having a little bit more of a slower morning as the other markets. As the other 500 stocks. So SPX equal weight, SPX EW will let us know how the overall other, say, if I could type in the ticker correctly, how the other 493 stocks are trading, and they're doing okay. So it's typically right now it's mags that are a little heavy at the moment. So anytime that is the case, but then mags, the Mag 7, the 7 biggest companies in the S&P 500, if the mags catch some bids lower down here on these new lows and daily lows and weekly lows potentially, and the SPX equal weighted is still here holding some bids, that means that everything is now right. We got mags, the big stocks, and everything else in the SPX, if you were hypothetically equal weight those, okay, holding some bids in that market again. This market is still in a bull market. So if we got the other 493 stocks kind of doing decent today, this SPX equal weighted is up while the mags are down. If the mags catch a bid, meaning they catch bids down at these little low sweeps here, be careful. Okay, this market could potentially pop to the upside. Okay, so anytime you see that, be aware of that. All right, still this meta trade hasn't proved us wrong yet or anything like that. So let's see. And I know you folks want to click buttons. The setups are. Wait, did I write all that on Microsoft? I wrote all those notes on Microsoft. Did I? I did. All right, here's Meta, just being patient with this. All right, let's see if we can get a Meta push here. We're approaching that target. All right, TP said Meta, this new low here, coming into this weekly, last week's low. Take profit. I'll make the notes later. All right, I was a little bit late to the short there. All right, not a lot here because I was a little bit late to it. But make sure you trade the chart, right? We're coming into a weekly level, so this is a very aggressive trade, right? So, just taking profit, albeit it's not an insane rip. But shorting Meta is always like, woo, gotta be careful with that. I just realized I made all the notes on Microsoft. I'm just gonna copy this. This is kind of where we like in. Well, I got in a little bit later, somewhere like over here or something like that, right? Whatever. And TP's right? Short, right? So you have to buy the cover, which is like blue. All right, so took some profit. Decent amount, because this is counter trend. All right, so, I'd say position size should be dropped a bit more smaller now, and then your stop loss. Now that we have, here's the open right here, 930. Boom, wide range bar off the open here. Okay, and then swipe lower, and then we had a correction. We just made a new lower low here, right? So that gave us this little pivot now here, right? So this could be where your stop loss is, especially on a counter trend over a higher time frame. So even though Meta's down a little bit here today, okay, and kind of off the back of yesterday, okay, just look at the monthly and the weekly and the daily. Okay. So that said, right, we're going to protect this. And that pivot right here, so we have the impulse, the correction, new lower low here. So now we can put our stop loss objectively above that swing there. If you're still in this. Okay. All right, so these are all going to be TPs if we get that. And so you can see SPYs and SPX. I love it, but and S&P futures love it, but choppy, choppy, choppy. All right, let's see. NVIDIA, is NVIDIA coming to that? NVIDIA is at that level down in here. It's not a daily low sweep, but it's at a level of demand. Some long call in the video. Don't get too far away from the 181 handle. All right, so if I was short in the video, I'd be taking profit pretty aggressively here. So if you wanted to pick up maybe say the 182 half strike calls, they're only going for about $1.37 here, folks. This is in the video for a quick little mean revert trade here. 187 half strike call NVDA. It's be a bounce trade. All right, 182 half. Copy and paste that code here. TP send meta, 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 TP send meta. I would suggest a TP meta before you maybe potentially lock into this NVIDIA handle. TP meta, some TP meaning take profit. You got to manage that aggressively, folks. All right, got some meta here. I didn't have a lot of size to begin with, but taking it down here. All right, dumping some decent here on meta. I'm going to be down to like one contract here after this send here. All right, cool. All right, this is the put premium. So as meta's going down, this put premium is increasing, okay? Protect your butt here, okay? Protect your A, you know what? Either get all out, or if you're looking to do some runners, make sure your size is smaller, and then protect, meaning, you know, stop loss could be at break even, so this can't hurt you no more, or no give back skis, right? No give back. So stop loss break even on remainder. All right. So protect, protect, protect. All right, let me make the meta notes here first, because this is meta's a beast. All right, so just TP some more down here to the targets. Now you're starting to see some yellows and blues down here, right? So that means, and we're below shelf right here. So which we liquidity sweep yesterday on that. So now this is yesterday. Now this is going to be yesterday's low. So that could potentially happen again on this new low sequence here. So just be sure you're taking profit diligently on that. One ounce of dairy. I like that. The Zucks with the Bucks. I like that. All right. Let's move on here. Tesla trying to do a little sneaky play here. And then I just locked in some NVIDIA, right? Well, let me lock in that into my other account. Now we got sneakily long here. Give or take. The 182 half, right? So 182 half. Shout out, who's that? Lakai on the YT. Like, you know, TikTok, you have to be a little careful. You can't say certain companies. So YT, y'all know who, you know, social media YT abbreviation. Yeah. So yeah, Lakai's out there. I see you, brother. On that NVIDIA alert, if you will. Yeah. Right. So you can take some profit on the call out there. Not bad. Teamwork makes the dream work. Tesla. All right, there we go. Now that was a long bullish at demand, kind of like low range, because NVIDIA's been inside day for a little while now, right? NVIDIA's been choppy, right? So this is just chop trade, right? Chop trade, not trying to chase price. So somebody got trapped there, right? Not trying to chase price lower down in here. So, didn't grab the short or was working better because it's a little bit more weaker. Well, I guess NVIDIA is a little bit more weaker now, but well, not anymore. But anyways, blah, blah, blah. Long call and then take profit. Sell the exit. Low bounce. Nothing too crazy. Tesla new high ended up being a opener. Tesla's opened up. Good job, Makai. He's on it. The Phantom member. Yeah, TP some Tesla in. Not an easy play. Tesla's trying to gain some bids here. Tesla's been overall range for a little while now too. If you look at the bigger picture. All right, but that's my hour, folks. I don't want to overlap any of the other phantoms here. You see me? Yeah, I don't. You don't have a name, Pink. You just have a pink on YT. You have no name. Is that KK? KK, my guy. I love you, man. Is that you, KK? It's my guy. Love you, bro. Noise. On the vid, great question, Aiden. We're gonna what is it? Where are we here? So if I go, what's the target on the vid? So we already hit the kind of a target one here, right? So reduce some. We have to, and I know Aiden knows this. He's a member as well. But you can see NVIDIA. Go to the. I already know Aiden, right? You already know that. So if I go to like the weekly, it's been kind of daily. It's been kind of like choppy here, right? So we just got to mean revert to VWAP, right, for the day, right? And so if I look at like last week's VWAP and even the week, if I look at last week's VWAP, this is a weekly VWAP from last week. So I'd say target number 2 here, Aiden and team, right, would be potentially up here. Which we were just up here a little while ago. And this would be just representative. I got a daily time frame on the left here, right? Range, mid-range, right? So you can see in the video, of course, if I look way out, scale out, which we should do, and I know the team knows. Okay, here we are. But NVIDIA's been. I could just put NVIDIA in one box right here for the past all last week, and coming off into this week. NVIDIA's in a range right here, right? And so because I got last week's VWAP still on, that's mid-range, and just yesterday into today's VWAP, right? It's just all up here. So the question is right here. I say target number 2, right? See if you can get that mid-range, and this would be target number 3 in the event that we can maybe get up into this area here. NVIDIA's been very choppy, right? Over the past couple of weeks, right? So we'll see. Right? Does that make sense? So, and now in this particular case, we're doing the bounce trade. We're counter trend on the daily just for right now, but it's only not even 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see, right? Not a lot of catalysts here today, but you don't want this thing to come back and hurt you either, too, right? So depends on what your fill was. All right, but TP some, and you can put your stop loss just if this doesn't give out. If this gives out, then just get out. Now, if you're doing the option, of course, you might theta decay might take you. You may give some back. All right, but you're talking about stop loss 122 if this were to make a new pivot low down here. This is the premium chart here, 122 in terms of the price point on premium. So that'd be stop loss down here, and that would be targets up here, right? So that options premium would be, if we rip up, probably options premium would be what? Maybe like 190, right? Target premium price here of calls, 210s premium price, and then we get the open here, 240s, right? That's all. Yeah, Striker. Yep, indeed, brother. I see you, brother. I see you, brother. All right, protect your butt on Meta. Discuss that. Cool. Just did a quick little trade management on NVIDIA, understanding that we're on the bounce trade. And be extremely patient. All right. That said, it's now 10 o'clock. It's my hour, give or take. I don't want to overlap anybody else. Phantoms, speaking of Phantoms, where you would go for anybody who's interested. If yeah, great. If no, great as well. All good. TradePhantoms.com. You can click on the register button there now, or register now button. Name, email. You'll get sent a link to register for it on Thursday, August 21st. This Thursday coming up, August 21st, about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will be hosted by either Mr. Black or Mr. Green. Sometimes they'll both be in there, and they'll do about maybe an 30. Maybe an hour 30, 90-minute session, give or take. What Phantom is all about, how we operate from top down, how markets really work. We're all professional traders here, right? Multi-directional trading, up, down, sideways, stocks, futures, forex, options, all asset classes, even crypto. Okay, short-term trading, scalping, all the way to long-term wealth management. It's kind of a one-stop shop for everything. Come check it out. If you like it, great. If not, cool as well. We'll do our thing as well. And that said, I'll see some of y'all. Trade safe. Don't get back any of the game this morning. And believe me, folks, I've been doing this a long time. There's going to be mornings where there's so many trading setups that you can't even handle them all. And I'm so grateful that we have Phantoms members to help us out there. Right? There's some veterans in the room, in the group. But there's going to be days, folks, where there's so many good setups that you can't even handle all the good setups. You can't even take them all. So today's one of those days where, like yesterday, where okay, kind of slow, grindy. You pick your spots right. Protect your capital, right? Don't try to be a hero here. Wait for this market to try to make a big move. Next big move up, the next big move down. Right? Trade the tape, as we say. Right? This is price action. Wait, the markets will unravel and give you setups if you learn how to wait and sit on your hands and then apply more risk when things are looking better conditions, so on and so forth. Okay, super key. That said, blew out. God bless y'all. Know I love y'all. I don't even know what streams I'm on right now. What I can and cannot say on certain streams. So wherever I'm out right now, I'll see some of y'all later in the group at futures class tonight. God bless. Take care. Blew out. Trade safe.